I want you to picture this scene in your head. You are an X-Files fan. You have been watching the show since you were a child. It has played such a big part in your life. And on the 30th anniversary of this fantastic show, you fly how many thousand kilometers across the Atlantic Ocean to celebrate said anniversary with other fans, actors, and creators. It's day 3. Everyone is tired, but happy, excited. The atmosphere is warm, friendly. You feel like a family, a very strange, large family consisting of people that barely even know each other. And you're wearing your makeshift alien cosplay that's very sparkly and pretty, and your new friends from a very popular podcast asked you to pose for a picture for their Instagram account. And as you are standing there posing, you feel someone's presence behind you. You turn around and you're standing face to face with the writer of Clyde Bruckman's Final Repose. Darren Morgan is photobombing you. Welcome to PhileFest 2023. So I want to welcome you to a very special episode of Fandom X Archive. Fresh on the heels of PhileFest, I wanted to release this episode into the world as soon as possible before my memories get too hazy, before the hype dies down, even though I hope it doesn't for a long time. But I just felt I wanted to do this now and not wait for the end of the month, which is when I usually release my new episodes. This is unscripted, and the reason I'm going unscripted is because I was too excited to write a script. Because when I was thinking about sitting down and writing a script, which is basically a recap of everything that has happened during the weekend, I just felt so anxious. I was thinking, there is no way I can sit and write it or type it without getting too excited, without wanting to speak the words, without wanting to tell the whole story. Luckily, I've had some practice with this when I was at my hotel room. After each day, I would wrap up what happened, basically, in my stories on Instagram. So I do have some practice trying to recap what happened. But of course, this is going to be very different. I am not used to talking without a script into my microphone, so I ask you to be a little patient with me. Am I going to do this every time I do a podcast? Of course not. This is very stressful, and I work best when there are no cameras and where I can slice and splice and cut and paste some of the best parts of the recording. And this is very much raw. This is what you're getting. Now you're also asking yourselves, did she just install Twitch and a bunch of other tools to record just one episode? Well, yes and no. I have been wanting to install Twitch and get a Twitch account for a very long time. It has been in my plans, but this PhileFest has been very helpful in expediting the process. So I'm a bit ahead of the schedule. I have not figured out all the quirks and kinks of this software. I am very much a newbie when it comes to this type of technology. Imagine Revival Mulder trying to take a video of the lizard monster on his cell phone. That is me. Now, of course, I will stop during the recording and I will splice, but it's still very raw. I will do as little editing as possible, simply because you can see my face and it just does not look as good when it's all spliced together as when you're only doing video and you can fake a coherent, smooth monologue. So welcome to this unusual episode. Where to start? Well, let me start by expressing my gratitude to everyone, starting with the people who have organized this behemoth of an event. I can only imagine the amount of work and stress and just mental work that goes into planning and organizing and executing an event of this caliber. From what I've heard, this was going to be much smaller, a very intimate, small PhileFest. But again, correct me if I'm wrong, as soon as Chris Carter joined, it became what it became, basically. And I'm very happy. This has been quite an experience. So thank you to the organizers, and thank you to all the guests that have attended, from Chris Carter to the Morgans, all the writers, all the actors. Thank you all so much for being a part of this. Thank you for letting us, the fans, be a part of your lives, and also for letting yourselves be a part of our lives. God, this sounds so cheesy. Thank you to everyone who attended, who I have interacted with and not interacted with. There were a lot of people, a lot of new friends that I've made. Some friends that I have made on social media, but I did not meet until this event. And that was quite a surreal experience. You've been talking to someone for a very long time and you don't even know what they look like. So that was very interesting. So thank you to everyone, and thank you to my family and friends who have been encouraging me to go, because as I will tell you later, I was very close to not going. I know it's a shocker, but it's true. So with that out of the way, let's talk PhileFest. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I was very close to not going to PhileFest, and that is for several reasons. One of them being financial reasons. I could not afford to go. I could not afford such a trip. The last time I went to America, I was staying with a friend, and I did not have to pay for, most of the things that you have to pay for when you're traveling. And this was going to be different. I was going to stay at the hotel, and of course the PhileFest itself was going to be much more expensive than the X-Fest at the X-Files Museum, which I attended last year. But I guess stars were smiling in my direction. I don't know if it was chance or providence or fate, or just must have been an X-File. But I found a new job. And it was so fast, it was so sudden, unexpected, just very lucky that I got this job. And I was working nonstop, no vacation, no holidays, for 4 months, from May through August. And I made enough money to buy plane tickets, hotel stay, and most of the tickets that I wanted to get at the PhileFest. I'm saying most because I did run out of money at some point. We'll talk about it later. But stars were smiling, and I finally could afford to take the trip. And so I did. Another reason was I was afraid of going alone. I have traveled alone before, but every time there was someone waiting for me on the other end of the, I was going to say rainbow, uh, of the flight. So I was in Canada a few years ago, and I flew there alone, but I was meeting with a friend. And last time I was in America, I was also with a friend. And this was going to be the first time traveling alone. And I was very scared. And not because I was scared of flying alone or being in a hotel room alone or being in a strange city by myself. I was afraid of attending such an important event for me by myself and not having a good time. I was afraid it was going to be one of those scenarios when you go to a party alone when you're a teenager and you don't know anyone and you end up having a horrible time. And no, I'm not speaking from experience. But some very good people on Twitter, because I did write it on Twitter, I reached out and I just expressed my apprehension and my anxiety, and I had some wonderful people on Twitter encourage me to take the trip, to go anyway. They said, you're not going to be alone there, you're going to be surrounded by friends who you barely know, but who love the things that you love. And so I went, and I was anxious and apprehensive till the very end of my trip. And so Friday, first day of PhileFest, I arrive, and I am wearing my gay FBI attire. And by gay FBI attire, I mean I'm just wearing white shirt, blazer, and a rainbow necktie, which was very much appreciated by some of the people there. And so I arrived, and it was nothing like I expected. I did not know that Mall of America was this gigantic. I mean, I've been to plenty of malls. I've seen my fair share of gigantic malls, but they have an amusement park inside the mall. So if you've never been to Mall of America in Minneapolis, it's very much worth the trip. Even though I'm not a fan of malls, but this is quite different. So I arrive at the mall and at the convention floor, and it's very big. The room is very big, but at the same time it feels very small. It feels very intimate. And this is what this event has felt like for me. Big, but intimate. It wasn't overwhelming. It didn't feel like a Comic-Con. It felt like a very private, big, but small party of old and new friends. And now that I'm trying to piece together the events of the first day, I'm drawing a blank. I don't really remember what happened. I remember standing in line to meet and get autographs for a bunch of actors and writers from the X-Files. Annabeth Gish and Nicholas Lee and Melinda McGraw, Chris Owens. And as I was standing in line to meet Annabeth, this girl comes up to me and she says, I follow you on Twitter. And I remember you writing that you were very afraid of going by yourself. And she said, I'm very glad that you came. And this girl's name is Karina, and we became good friends. And we basically spent the PhileFest together. Obviously, we were doing our own thing and meeting other people, but we spent most of our time together. She was going to go with her husband, but he had to stay home. And she went by herself, and she was also afraid of going by herself, but she came to PhileFest, and I'm very happy that she did. Not only because it's good that she came because she's a big X-Files fan, but also because I made a new friend. And so I went to get autographs from all these people, and I think I'm gonna have to do a little flashback. I have to go back in time a little bit. Last year, when I went to the X-Files Museum to meet Nicholas Lee, I gave him a little present. As you know, Alex Krycek is the rat boy. And in Sweden, we have this very popular candy, but you can't get it everywhere. It's very hard to find. But it's basically it's just gummy rats. Big, fat gummy rats, very bad for you, very unhealthy. And so last year I got him a bucket of gummy rats, and I gave him the bucket, and I said, "You're the rat boy." And I didn't even say you were rat boy. I just gave him the candy, and I said, "These are gummy rats," and he started laughing immediately because he just knew. And there are pictures of him holding the bucket, and there's a picture of him with the gummy rat in his mouth, which is very funny. And I heard from good sources that he ate the entire bucket by himself that same day. And I got inspired, and I thought, if I meet him again, I have to get him these rats again. And I was this close to not buying any rats because, like I said, they're very hard to find. And so instead I got these like replacement gummy mice, which were very much smaller, and I just didn't feel like it was the same thing. And like the day before my flight, my mom says, why don't you just go to the candy store and just see, maybe. And so I did. I went to the candy store, and what do you know? Gummy rats. Plenty of gummy rats. And so I get a full bucket, I buy the gummy rats, and I take them with me on the trip. And I'm standing in line to see Nicholas again. And his assistant or one of the volunteers says, "Listen, so this line is closed now. We're gonna take him to the photo op. So if you want his autograph, you have to be quick." And I said, "Well, I don't want his autograph because I already have his autograph. I would just want to give him a present. Can I do it?" And the volunteer says, "Yes, but you have to be very quick." And so I come up to his table and I say, "Listen, we met last year, and I gave you these gummy rats that you liked, and I have another shipment of gummy rats." And he says, "I remember you, Sweden, right? Sweden." And I said, "Oh my God, yes. That was almost a year ago. He meets so many people, yet he remembered me." I said, "Yes." And he says, "What's your name again?" And so I tell him my name, and I said, "Listen, I have these gummy rats, but I just want to give them to you very quickly." And he said, "I know, I love them. I ate them all." And I said, "I know. This is why I'm giving you more." And I gave him the bucket, and unfortunately I don't have any photo evidence of this moment happening. You can't have it all. But I gave him the rats, and then he ran to his photo op, and I ran to do other things. So this was the first memorable interaction of PhileFest. And I'm gonna take a little break right now. I quit recording, and when I get back, I'll tell you some more things about PhileFest. I'm gonna tell you about meeting Annabeth Gish and giving her a present. So I'll see you soon. Next, we're going to talk about meeting Annabeth Gish, and we're going to time jump a little. You'll see why. So, at some point during day one, I believe it was day one, I gave my friend Karina a scarf. Now, backtrack a little bit. I took a bunch of handmade scarves and hats with me on the trip because I thought that maybe I would give them as presents to someone. I originally wanted to vend at the event, but it just didn't happen. It was too expensive and I didn't have enough merch to sell. But I thought I might as well get some scarves and maybe I'll just hand them out to people. And that turned out to be one of the smartest decisions I made, because I gave one of the scarves to my friend Karina and I said, listen, I'm very happy that I've met you and I really want you to have this. And so she got very happy and she put it on and she was wearing it for the rest of the weekend. And later I would give the scarf to Annabeth Gish. Now that was after I had met her and told her about my X-Files podcast, which she was very interested in. And so I gave her the scarf. I said, listen, you're such a sweet, sunshiny, rainbowy person, and I'm really glad that I got the chance to talk to you, and I just want you to have this. And she got very surprised and very happy, and she said thank you, and then she put the scarf on immediately. And I said, can I take a picture with you? Can I take a picture of you wearing the scarf? And she said, well, why don't we take a picture together? And I had just spent $65 to get a photo op with Annabeth, and I was getting a selfie with her for free. This is the stuff that you can't make up. But we took a picture together, and it's so sweet. And of course, you can also find it on my Instagram and on Twitter. And later that day, Karina sent me another picture of Annabeth with another fan, and she was still wearing the scarf. And so the saga of the scarf continued. On day 3, Karina went to get Sheila Larkin's autograph. And apparently Sheila asked her, where did you get the scarf? And Karina said, she pointed at me and she said, my friend made it. She makes them. And then Karina told me, and I was like, well, this is very, very sweet. Unfortunately, I am fresh out of scarves. I only had 2, and I gave one to Annabeth and one to Karina. But I thought, I have to give her something. And I wasn't going on, because, I'm on a tight budget, so I wasn't planning on getting Sheila's autograph or getting a picture taken with her. But I thought, well, this is a special occasion. And so I get her portrait for her to sign, and I go up to her table and I say, listen, my friend said that you liked the scarf that I gave her. Unfortunately, I don't have any more to give. And she said, well, that's okay. And I said, but I do have a hat that I made from the same yarn. So it's a matching hat, a beanie. And I take out the beanie and I said, if you want it, it's yours. And she says, are you serious? And I said, well, of course. And so I gave her the beanie and she put it on, and I said, can I take a picture of you wearing it? And I took a picture of her wearing it. And she was so sweet. She signed my picture, the portrait. And later that day, Karina invited me to join her in a photo op with Sheila. And so we took a picture of Mama Scully together. And as we walked in, the photo booth set up, whatever, she says, oh, I should have worn the hat you gave me. And I said, well, that's okay. And now I am working on a scarf for Sheila Larkin. I am making Mama Scully a scarf, And hopefully I'll be able to give it to her either on some other event or maybe send it to her as fan mail, but I'm working on it. In fact, I spent the better part of yesterday untangling the yarn because I made a mess, but this is how I work. So this is the saga of the scarf. Now, about the other presents I gave, now I'm time jumping here. This is how I record. This is how I'm thinking. I'm chaotic, but I gave the two scarves to Annabeth, of course, and Karina. I gave a beanie to Sheila Larkin, but I also gave a beanie to Dean Hagland, aka Langley of the Lone Gunman. Now that's a story. And I gave a beanie to Chris Carter. I don't know. It was such an impulsive thing because I knew I wanted to get him something. But, I mean, Nicholas Lee is Krychek. He's the rat boy, so he gets gummy rats. What the hell do I give to Chris Carter? I don't know. What is it that he doesn't already have that I can give him? And so I gave him the hat. I hope he wears it in good health. I don't know if it really is his style. It's a color blocked hat, so I don't even know if he wears this, but maybe he'll give it to someone else. It doesn't really matter. It was just a way of showing my appreciation and gratitude. And lastly, the last scarf that I made was a Twin Peaks Black Lodge scarf that I made specifically for Michael Horse, aka Deputy Hawk, who was also attending PhileFest because he was in an episode of the X-Files. And so I think that was also on, I don't remember if it was on Friday or Saturday really, but I came up to his table and I said, listen, I have a photo op with you later. I'm not here to get your autograph, but I just wanted to give you this scarf that I made, which is Twin Peaks themed. And it's your standard, God, what's the pattern called? I forgot. But it's your standard, this Black Lodge floor pattern. And the tassels are red, like the curtains in a Black Lodge. And I said, look, I'm such a big fan of Twin Peaks. And he says, yeah, me too. I'm just a fan. And I gave him the scarf and he's like, oh my God, is this for me? And I said, well, of course, yes. And I explained to him that it's handmade. You have to be very careful. You have to hand wash it. And his wife tells me, it's okay, I'm his wife. I will take care of it. And so I gave him the scarf. And then later that day we had a photo op. And I am not ashamed to say that I do have a little crush on him. I mean, I've had a crush on Deputy Hawk before, but now I have a crush on Michael Horse as well. So, not ashamed to admit it. And, of course, photo ops, Saturday was the most photo ops. Saturday was the busiest day. It was chaotic. I think most of us who attended PhileFest can agree on that Saturday was the most chaotic and the busiest day. Because I was in line for these photo ops basically all day, I missed all the fun panels, the creative panel, creatives with Chris and the Morgans and Frank Spotnetz, and I'm missing all the other names. It was on Saturday and I missed it. And I missed a bunch of other panels. Mitch Pileggi came on Saturday and I missed his panel. I missed Nicholas Lee on a panel. I really wanted to hear him tell more X-Files stories, but this is just life. You can't have it all. I did take some cool pictures with all the cool guys. So you can see all the pictures on my Twitter, on my Instagram. I look like a complete dork who is so happy to have met these people. And I was telling someone, I think I was telling my brother, that I don't care about celebrities. I'm not in it for, meeting celebrities. When I attend sci-fi cons and comic cons, I am very excited to meet the actors and other creatives whose work I admire, but I don't care about meeting the celebrity, like this whole status thing. But wasn't about meeting some famous people. This was about meeting people who have made and been in my favorite show. This is meeting people who have created and contributed to something that has meant so much to me in my life and has inspired me to be creative and to create things that I love also. So that was why I was so starstruck. That was why, not even starstruck, it was just this surreal feeling of being in the same room as Frank Spotnitz, of sharing the same physical space as James Wong and Annabeth Gish and Mitch Pileggi, and seeing them just walking around like real people, like normal people, which they absolutely are. But these are the people that have created something that means so much to us, meant so much to us who were in that room, and to be in that room with all the people and all these writers and actors and with other fans, that was very surreal, and the energy was so good in that room during those days. And like I said, completely surreal. I'm sitting in a food court with my friend Karina. We're having lunch, and I see Nicholas Lee walking, I think, just down the food court. And I look at him like, well, this is so unprecedented and unusual. And I look at him and I smile, and he winks at me like, this is my reality now. But yeah, autographs and photo ops and panels. I went to a few panels. I went to a Lone Gunman panel, which was so funny. Dean Haglund and Tom Braidwood and Bruce Harwood. I'm so sorry. I'm so bad with names, but they were all very funny, and they all have very different energy. Dean Haglund is this loud, outgoing guy who just jokes all the time. Well, I mean, he's a comedian. I just like has these stories to tell, and he has this all this energy. He takes up like so much space. And Tom Braidwood, who is Frohiki, he's just like sitting there and he's very quiet. And then once in a while, he'll just drop a line, and the whole room is just falling apart laughing. So it was very interesting seeing them interact with each other and being themselves, being these personalities. It's like they are lone gunmen, but then they are not lone gunmen. They're just themselves. So that was very, very special. And I went to a panel where William B. Davis, aka Cancer Man, Stephen Williams, aka Mr. X, the actor who played Dwayne Barry, I'm sorry, I forgot the name again, and Larry Musser, who was in a bunch of episodes of The X-Files, played many different characters, and they all were in a panel together, and they were answering questions, of course, and it was also a lot of fun. Stephen Williams was the most, he generated the most laughs. Just the guy he's so much different than his character, and is just so funny and loud and outgoing and just unapologetically himself. It was just a delight watching him on the panel, but also just at the convention at the PhileFest. At some point, he borrowed a scooter from one of the fans, and he was just like driving around Mall of America. He just did that. So Larry Musser, who I was not planning on meeting because, like I said, again, I had to be very careful with my budget. But he was just such a delight. He was hugging and being friends with all the fans, just had this very positive, outgoing, friendly energy. And I just, loved being in the same room with him. And on the last day, on Sunday, see how we time jump? On Sunday, none of the actors were there. It was just, well, except for Sheila Larkin and Dean Hagland, but all the others were gone. It was just mostly the creatives. But Larry Musser came just to hang out with us. He signed autographs and he took self pictures with the fans, and he was just like talking and just hanging out. He didn't even have to be there, and he was such a joy. And I decided to get his autograph, and so I got his autograph. I took a portrait, which is a still from Chenga, and I said I chose this one because I think of all the characters that you played on the X-Files, this one is the best. He's just, if you remember his character, Jack on Chenga, he is just this sweet, wholesome, kind cop who just wants to protect his town, and who takes a liking to Scully, and who really comes to respect Scully, but also develops a crush on her. And as he was signing the picture, I said, I think that Jack had a crush on Scully. And Larry says, oh yeah, he did. So confirmed by the actor himself, he had a crush on Scully. And so he signs the picture, and in my eagerness to put the picture in a safe place, I end up getting the autograph smeared because the marker was still the wet. And so I come up to him and I say, I'm really sorry, but this got smeared. Could you please sign your last name again? And so he did. And later that day, like I said, I bought gummy mice just as it was going to be a replacement for the gummy rats, but I did end up finding the gummy rats, but I still had the gummy mice in these like small bags. And I gave one to Larry and I said, listen, here's the backstory. I usually, I have this whole thing where I give Nicholas Lee, who is Rat Boy, rats. He starts laughing. I said, but I also have these mice and I want you to have them. They're very popular Swedish candy, very bad for you. And he says, oh, if they're bad for me, then I'll have them. And so he takes the candy and we take a picture. Takes a picture with me, he takes a picture with me, he takes a picture with Karina, he takes a picture with a bunch of other fans, and he thanks me for the candy. And that was a very, very wholesome moment. Like I said, there's so many highlights that I can't even choose which one is the most wholesome and sweet and amazing. And speaking of candy, like I said, I had one bag left. And I had met Frank Spotnitz. Again, I don't remember if it was Friday or Saturday. My brain is mashed potatoes right now. I'm very sorry. But Frank Spotnitz and I ended up having a very sweet and interesting conversation. I told him I really appreciate how kind and outgoing you are with your fans on Twitter, because he is always responding and liking and just has this very open interaction with fans on Twitter, which is very unusual for a producer or a writer on a show as big as the X-Files, when the fandom is as big and opinionated. But he's very good to fans on Twitter, and I thanked him for that. And then we talked a little bit about how Twitter sucks after, who. And he said, well, why don't you join Threads? Because we're on Threads too. And I thought, well, I don't know, choose between two evil corporations owning a social media platform. I don't know, maybe, we'll see. And he asked me where I'm from. And I said, well, I live in Sweden. I came here from Sweden, but I'm originally from Kazakhstan. And he says, And then he says, I have friends from Kazakhstan. I was like, oh, really? And that's, I mean, meeting someone who has friends from your native country is not that unusual. It's not like it's just statistics. But it is pretty unusual for me to meet someone, especially if they're from and in America, or like in a Western country, who have friends from my homeland. To me, it's unusual. And so I said, oh, really? And so we talk a little bit about that. And I said, well, where are they from? Where in Kazakhstan are they from? And he says, well, they're from Almaty. And I'm like, I am from Almaty. I was born and raised in Almaty. And I know statistically it doesn't really mean anything. But to me, it means something. It does mean something. It means that the producer of my favorite show in the world has some sort of connection to my homeland. And call me sappy, call me nostalgic, or like I'm reading too much into everything. But that was pretty special. And so the next day I went, so it was on Sunday, I went to see him again. And I was wearing my alien cosplay. Now, if you haven't seen the pictures, I recommend that you do. I am not completely happy with that cosplay. There's some things that I could have done differently. There are some things that I will change, but it was very last minute, and it was very popular, and it was very pretty and sparkly, and kids loved me in it. But anyway, I walk up to him to give him the candy, and he says, I love you. And he recognizes me, of course, and he says, I love your outfit. And which was like so sweet. And I tell him the story behind the rat candy, and he laughs. And I said, well, I have this extra bag of gummy mice if you want it. I said, they're very unhealthy. And so he took it. And I really hope I didn't contribute to any of the X-Files people having more cavities in their teeth. As someone who used to study dentistry, someone who used to work as a dentist nurse, I feel a little bad for raising the level of sugar and sugar-eating bacteria in those people's teeth. But, candy is good. Candy makes us happy. I'm going to take a little break again. Just pretend this is a commercial break, even though we have no ads on Fandom X Archive. Now, a little tangent. I don't know if I will ever have ads. I'm not saying never. I am not ruling out any possibility, but for one, this podcast is way too small for it to attract any ad givers, any companies, but also because I kind of don't want, this is such a small and intimate podcast. This is just me doing this for a very close group of my friends and fellow X-Files fans, that adding this third party would just feel so weird. And like I said, I'm not saying never, but if I had a choice between ad revenue and setting up something like PayPal, where you would help keep this podcast alive, I would go with the second one, of course. But pretend this is an ad break, and I will be back shortly. light. I should probably speed things up, but just like with PhileFest itself, I do not want to end this thing. I don't want this thing to end. I want to keep talking about PhileFest because there will be other X-Files conventions and events, but this is a really once in a lifetime type of thing. So where were we? We're talking about meeting all these amazing people, meeting all the amazing fans and friends. Let's see. I should probably go back to the beginning, to the first day. Now, Karina, who I mentioned was supposed to come with her husband, but he had to stay home. She had an extra ticket. She had extra tickets for everything. And so she had this extra ticket to a concert by Bree Sharp. Now, you must know that Bree Sharp is the musician, singer-songwriter who wrote and sang the iconic David Duchovny song. And the PhileFest booked her to perform and give a little show on Friday, on the first day. And initially I wasn't going to see, because aside from that song, I didn't know her music. And because again, budget. So I wasn't planning on seeing her live. But Karina had an extra ticket and she said, well, why don't you come join me? And I said, well, okay. And so on the first day, on Friday, first I go back to my hotel room, I take a shower, I try and rest. And then I go back to Mall of America and we go watch a live performance by Bree Sharp. And I have a new favorite artist because she is just amazing. Totally fangirling right now, but she is, not only is she very, very talented, a very talented songwriter and musician, has an amazing voice, sounds great live, but she has this stage presence that you can't stop watching her. She owns the stage. She was there with her collaborator and old friend, and they have very good chemistry together. But she dances and she uses the stage, and she just has this incredible charisma that only adds to how good the music is. And I was just blown away by her songs. They were such good songs. And she did this whole show. She sang, and then she told stories of her life, and she told a story about how she came to write the iconic song, and how she eventually ended up meeting David Duchovny. And of course she did the song last, of course, and it was amazing hearing it live for the first time, because it's such a fun, silly song. It's actually not, it's nothing like her music. It's very different from her other songs. But she did the song, and we stayed to chat with her. There was a line to meet and greet her and talk to her, and she was very, very sweet. She stayed and she talked to everyone. She really took her time. Her friend brought in a bunch of CDs for us to buy, and we got her CDs, and she signed them. And hold on, I'll show you. Okay, for those of you who are watching this, you can see it, but for those of you who are only listening, I'm holding up the album that I bought from her that she signed. It's called More BS by Bree Sharp. And she was very, very sweet and very kind. And we talked about how, Karina and I talked about how, we're gonna see you in New York City someday. So like we said, next time New York City. But it was a lot of fun chatting with her. And we hugged and we took a picture. And so that was the first late night event that I went to. It was incredible. Like I said, she's my new favorite artist. She has a new fan. And Saturday. Now this is a fun bit. If you were at PhileFest and if you did attend the screening of Fight the Future, you know what happened. You know the purple of it all. Now, I don't know why the screen was so purple. I've heard different versions. I've heard that it was just a technical error. But then I heard that they did it on purpose because of the copyright thing. I don't know what to believe. It's the X-Files, believe what you want. But it did not take away from the experience. Even though at some point I did forget how the movie looks without all the purple. But it was a lot of fun watching the movie with a room full of fans. Of course, the scene with the bee, everyone started booing the bee, which it was so funny. So just watching the movie, and it was like those viewings of movies like The Room or Rocky Horror Picture Show, where the audience participates in the movie. So it was a lot like that. We were doing the lines and we were sort of interacting with the movie. But the purple, of course, was very, very distracting. Now, I did leave early, but it was because I didn't want to wait for my shuttle for too long. And I thought that, I was already tired and I had seen the movie many times before. It was fun experiencing it with other fans, but I didn't think it was worth staying until like the very end and then having to wait another hour or so for my shuttle to arrive. Someone did get sick during the viewing. I saw two security guards. One of them was wearing like a paramedic thing, uniform. They were attending to this one guest, and then they took them out. Took them away. I don't know what happened to them. I hope that they are in good health. I hope it wasn't anything serious, but I was a little worried about that person. But before the viewing of the movie, we went to Dean Haglund's comedy show. And I don't remember the last time I laughed this hard. The last time I laughed so hard, my stomach was cramping. I was in so much pain. It was the funniest thing I had seen live. One of the funniest things I had seen ever. He is such a talented, amazing comedian, and the way it was improv comedy. It was apparently it's his like famous X-Files improv show, and this was the last one. So I didn't know this thing existed, but apparently I got to witness him do it for the last time. And he is so good at not just cracking jokes and being funny, but he's so good at interacting with the audience and getting a laugh out of the audience, and interacting with the crowd and with the volunteers that he uses as his scene partners. It's just amazing. I have no other word for it. We were all laughing so hard. And of course, I bought the flash drive, the signed flash drive of the show. I don't know if I'm going to watch it because it's so like better in your memory. Okay, I just bumped my microphone. I hope it didn't sound too much. But it's like Scully said, I want to remember how it all was. And so it's just so much better in memory. But I did buy it as a memento. And later, the next day, I went to I went to the stable with Karina to get the flash drive, and I told him, "You hurt me." I said, "You hurt me. Your show was so good. I was laughing so hard. I was in pain, literally." And he laughs and he says, "Sorry, not sorry." And so we talk a little bit, and he brings out his art book, copies of his art book. He's also an amazing artist, amazing painter. And I regret not getting the art book, because Karina got an art book, he signed it, and I love art. I have several art books in my library. I really wish I had gotten that, but I did get the flash drive. And now here's another anecdote. What I have this thing that when I travel, wherever I travel, I go to a bookstore in that particular city, and I get a copy of Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. It's one of my favorite books, and I have this tradition where I just collect different editions from around the world. So for now, I have a German one from Hamburg. I have a French one that I got in Montreal, and I have some others. I can't really remember from what places. And last time I went to America, I couldn't find a copy that I really wanted, because I went to Barnes & Noble and all they had was this like very generic paperback. And I scoured like old secondhand bookshops to find a copy that was more unique, but I couldn't find any. And that made me very, very sad. And so I thought, next time I go to America, even if it's just a Barnes & Noble copy, I'll still get one. And so I go to Barnes & Noble on Sunday. It's in the same mall, of course. I'm wearing my alien outfit. Everyone is staring at me. First of all, people are so boring. You see someone dressed in a flashy, glittery spacesuit and you just sneer. Like, God, you're boring. But like I said, I did get a lot of good reactions. People who really appreciated my outfit, and people who really, liked seeing someone just being so unapologetically themselves. But just going down the mall by yourself, dressed like that, I think it takes courage. Maybe just like the first time. Next time I wouldn't even bother looking at other people. But anyway, I go to Barnes & Noble and I get the copy. And it has to be special because it's my tradition, but also it's tied to PhileFest. And so I had some of my new friends sign this book, just like well wishes. And Karina was the first one to sign, and then I had some other friends to sign. And I thought, instead of having Dean Haglund, aka Langley, sign a portrait of him, I'm gonna give him this book to sign. And I come back to his table and I have one ticket left. And I say, "Listen, I have a very strange autograph request." And he starts laughing and he says, "Keep it classy." And I say, and I take out the book and I explain the history of this book, of this copy. And I say, "I really want you to sign it." And I think he was I think it made him happy that I asked him to sign something that was so personal to me. And so his signature is right there, right under Karina's signature. I will actually reach out and show it to you right now. Again, for those of you who are only listening to this, I'm holding out a copy of Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. And these are all the signatures. And Langley's is right there, the big letters. It says, "Trust no one." Signed by Dean Haglund, aka Langley, Ringo Langley. So that was so much fun. One of the best interactions I've had this last weekend. And like I said, all of the interactions were so good. Okay, next we're going to talk about talking to Glenn Morgan, Darren Morgan, Chris Carter, and we're going to talk about me being photobombed by Darren Morgan again. See you soon. We're losing daylight, but the string lights are kind of cool. This is non-alcoholic champagne. I figured I better not drink anything alcoholic while I'm recording, lest I say something I will have to cut out later. All right, where were we? So many interactions, so many people to meet, to have met. Chris Owens, aka the Great Mutato, and the young cigarette-smoking man, and Jeffrey Spender. Total goofball. Very funny, very charming. I have seen pictures of him having dinner with some other fans. Am I jealous? Of course I'm a little jealous, but I'm also mostly happy for the people that did have dinner and lunch with Chris Owens and Chris Carter and other X-Files people. I'm very just watching the pictures on Twitter and on Instagram of people having so much fun, and knowing that not only did you have a great time, but other people there also had a great time, and each of us have our own stories to tell and our own impressions of PhileFest. Not only is it very heartwarming, but it also contributes to this feeling of camaraderie, this feeling of us being one big, very strange family. So I guess if there's anything that we can take away from this PhileFest, it's this feeling. What else? I guess we should talk about... Oh, I know what we're going to talk about. We are going to talk about Lauren and Carly. Now, who are Lauren and Carly, you might ask? Well, how can you not know? Lauren and Carly are the two amazing gals that have been working on an X-Files documentary for the past 5 or 6 years. It's called the, now if I remember correctly, Fan Retrospective, X-Files 25. It was supposed to be released on the 25th anniversary, but because of Corona and because of other things, they released it. They actually premiered it on PhileFest, the final day of PhileFest. And not to spoil too much, but yours truly is in the final cut. Not that I'm bragging, but... Okay, I'll start at the beginning. A few years ago, someone wrote to me on Instagram that these people are doing an X-Files documentary. They're interviewing both actors and creators and the fans about the X-Files and what it had meant to them. And they're accepting people to interview, basically. And without thinking too much about it, I reached out to them and I said, well, I've been an X-Files fan for my whole life. I've been watching it since it first aired in my homeland. And if you want, you can take my interview. And so they did. Now, like I said, it was a few years ago. I looked very different back then. My hair was much shorter, was still my natural color, and I was doing this 30s, 40s curl thing with my hair. And so we did an interview via Skype or Zoom, I don't remember which one. And we stayed in touch, and they would interview more people, and they would post these interviews on their YouTube channel. And we were just waiting for the documentary to drop. And then they said that they were going to premiere it on PhileFest. And so we went to the premiere, and I was tearing up when they started showing, when the movie began. I started crying. I did. And I was anxiously awaiting my own arrival, my own, seeing my own face on the screen. And yes, I'm in it. And I'm not going to tell you which part I'm in, because you need to see that movie by yourself. You need to see that documentary by yourself. Now, I don't know if they have released it yet. I'm going to have to ask them. Right now, as I'm recording this podcast, this episode, I don't know where you can watch it. But like Alex Krycek once said, all in good time. So that was a very emotional moment. That was the last day of PhileFest, and it was such a great way to end an event like this with this movie, because this movie is not only a celebration of the X-Files, but it's also a celebration of the fandom. And it just felt so gratifying, and it felt like such a great payoff to this whole weekend. And Larry Musser came to see it. Like I said, he didn't have to be there, but he just came and, he saw the movie. And it was very emotional, very sweet, and a lot of fun. And I thanked Laura and Carly. Carly and I just hugged it out. And I said, great job, and I thanked them. And then Karina and I left. We said goodbye to some people. Obviously, we couldn't say goodbye to everyone because there were so many people. It was so crowded. And I was overcome with this feeling that I don't want this to end. It's Sunday, and I have to go home on Monday. And everyone has to go home, and all good things must come to an end, and we all have our lives to go back to. And Mall of America has to close for the day, but I don't want this to end. I really don't. I just want to keep living inside of that weekend for as long as possible. And by the end of, so the event had come to a close, but it was still early. And Karina and I just went, we were just hanging out at the mall. We went and had coffee, and we're just talking. And like I said, we spend most of our time together. I am so sorry. I don't know what my hair is doing. And it was time to say goodbye by the end of the day. And as we were about to leave the mall, we were approached. Well, we weren't approached. We saw another fan, this guy Dyson, who was, I'm so sorry. You remember, if you were at PhileFest, you remember the guy was wearing an inflatable alien costume. That was the guy. So we just stayed, we were just hanging out at the mall and just talking and having a great chat. And because it was Sunday, the mall closed early, and so all the lights were going off, and people were leaving, and it was time to go. It was a little bittersweet. But we said goodbye to Dyson, and then I said goodbye to Karina. We hugged, and we promised to stay in touch. And then she went back to her hotel, which was connected to the mall, so she didn't have to leave the mall. But I had to go back to my shuttle. And as I was waiting for my shuttle, I had a chat with another fan, just talking about the event. She had been a fan of the X-Files since the beginning also. And we're just talking. It was a nice way to end this such an intense weekend by just having like a random conversation with another fan. And I went back to my hotel room, and my feet were killing me by the end of the day, because the boots that I had bought for this cosplay are gorgeous, but they were killing my feet. They were so tight. And I went back to my hotel room, and I just put my feet up, and they were showing this marathon of Naked Gun movies. And I think it's a little, also, I see signs everywhere. Naked Gun was the first American movie I had seen as a child. That whole franchise, but especially the first movie, were my introduction to the American and Western culture. And so watching these movies while I was in America it felt like it had meant something. I don't know. But I watched the movies, I took a shower, I was just decompressing. And the next day I went home. I got at the airport, and as I was standing in the longest line to get to the security check at the airport in Minneapolis, and as I was just scanning through all the faces, all the sad, tired faces waiting to get to their respective flights, who do I see but Karina? She was a little bit ahead of me, and I took out my phone and I texted her, "I see you." And then she looks up and she sees me, and she writes me back. She says, "I see you too." And so we waved to each other. And finally, when I'm through with everything, with the security, with this whole circus charade, she's waiting for me there at the end of this horrible rainbow. And we hug, and we're just like, "Oh my God, I can't believe this." Turns out we're on the same flight. We're both going to, I'm not going to say what city, because I want her to stay anonymous. But we were on the same flight. And so we just had, a couple of hours to kill. And so, we were doing all the airport things, went to the souvenir gift shops, and we had coffee. And then as we're sitting by our gate, just waiting, this girl comes up, and she was also at PhileFest. Vida. She was the one who had won the cosplay contest because she was dressed as Scully from Chinga. And I remembered her because a couple of days before, I had complimented her on her shirt. She had this a replica of the shirt that Scully had in Chinga, the main shirt. And I complimented her on the shirt, and I said, I have also ordered one, but it was too small. It was a women's medium. Apparently, women's medium means child size small. And she said, well, this one's a little too big. And she, at the airport, she comes up to us, and she turns to me, and she says, "I have to give you something." And I was like, "What?" And then she gives me the shirt. Turns out she ordered two. And she remembered how much I loved her shirt and that mine was too small. She wanted me to have the extra one. She just gave it to me. I was not crying on the outside, but I was crying on the inside, and kind of get a little emotional just like thinking about it right now. And she said, "I remember how much you liked it, and I want you to have it. It's going to be a little big for you also, but it's better than, being too small." And she said, "I was going to mail it to you, but now that, that we're here, I might as well just give it to you now." And so I took the shirt, I thanked her, and we went to our flight. And then by the end of it, we said goodbye to Vida. And then I said goodbye to Karina again. And then I took the second flight back to my place. Well, back to Copenhagen, and then from Copenhagen to Malmo. But actually, the shirt is amazing. It is a little too big, but it was perfect because when I came home, I took a shower, I put on the shirt, and I took my first post-travel nap in that shirt. That was such a nice, satisfying way to close this trip, to end this trip. Um, so yeah, that was this very long story of how I eventually came back home. And I've been home for a few days now. I'm recording this on Saturday, which means it's now a week since I saw Dean Hagland live. It's been a week since I took a picture with Nicholas Lee, and a week since I took a picture with a bunch of other X-Files people, and a week since I had a conversation with another X-Files fan as I was charging my phone. And this guy has also been a fan of the X-Files since the very beginning. And I would like to talk about that fan more. And mostly because the way he got into the X-Files was so different than most of the stories that I hear about how people are getting into the X-Files. You know, especially now, I think people are discovering the X-Files thanks to, well, of course, thanks to the internet, but also they get into it through this angle of shipping. Mulder and Scully, these amazing characters, look so good together. Want to see when they're gonna get together, if ever, and so that's sort of people's gateway into the X-Files. But this particular fan, he got into the X-Files because he had an interest in UFO as a phenomenon. And so he had read a bunch of books and he was very interested in the topic. And when someone had recommended the X-Files to him, and he saw it for the first time, and he got hooked. So that was his way into the X-Files. And I just think it's so fascinating. And it's a testament to how great this show is, how complex and diverse and multifaceted the show is, that there are so many ways for people to discover it, that people of such diverse, different backgrounds get to enjoy it and find something in the show for them to enjoy and to be interested in. I would love to someday tell you more about how I got into the X-Files, which was neither through the shippy gateway nor through the paranormal gateway, but you know, I had my own way of discovering the X-Files. And this was another thing that kind of stood out. I don't know if the stood out is the correct term, but it just felt so satisfying meeting all these people who all love the same thing, but they all love it for slightly different reasons. You know, I spoke to people who are diehard shippers, and I spoke to people who aren't really interested in the relationship stuff. They were more in it for the plot and for the paranormal. And I spoke to people who have been fans since the very beginning, since they were young or children. And I spoke to people who are only now discovering this show. And it's not something that you don't really get online. Online, everything is more fragmented and polarizing, and you're either it's more like a Sith thing, you know. You're either with me or you're against me. You're either a shipper and I like you, or you're not a shipper and I don't like you. And you know, we have all these like factions, and we don't interact with fans that enjoy the X-Files for reasons other than ours. For the most part, it just feels like it's more fragmented. But being in the same room with all these people who all love the X-Files for their own reason and still feel this collective love and appreciation for the same thing, it's such a it unifies us. It really does. Instead of feeling like we're fragmented, like we're all in it for for all different things, and oh, you ship this, I ship that, or I like this season, you like that season. Instead, we're just coming together to celebrate this thing that we all love. And it was so heartwarming seeing how much love Chris Carter was getting and how much appreciation he was getting. He was being shown at PhileFest. And I had this whole plan that I would come up to him and I would tell him how much the show had meant to me and how grateful I was for everything, and that how he should not focus on all the negative parts, the vocal minority that has it in for him online. But I didn't have enough time. We had a very short chat when I came to get his autograph. He asked me where I was from. And I actually had, because I already have his autograph. My friend who had met him 2 years ago, she had him sign X-Files trading card for me, and she sent it to me. And I have it, and thought, I'd return the gesture. I'll pay it forward. And instead of having him sign his portrait for me, I had him sign it for my brother, because my brother is also an avid X-Files fan. We're both crazy about the X-Files, but he couldn't come to PhileFest because he had to work. And so I had Chris Carter and William B. Davis and Mitch Pileggi sign autographs for him, sort of like a late birthday present. And so we talked a little bit when I got his autograph for my brother, and then I thought, well, okay, I'll say more to him when I do the photo op. But photo op is even faster. You go in, take a picture, out of here. Everyone was nice when they were taking at the photo op. I can do a whole episode about how great the people that managed the photo ops were. Just such pleasant, wonderful people. Very, very kind. But it's all very fast and it's very stressful. And I didn't have time to say all the things I wanted to tell him. But I did just say, right after I took a picture, I said, I just want to say thank you. Really thank you, because the show has changed my life. And he said thank you back. And I really hope, and I know that some other fans also expressed gratitude and appreciation for what he has done with the X-Files. That he has created something that has brought us all together and has meant so much to us in our lives. And they got to thank him at his table, but also I know that some fans got to have dinner with him, dinner or lunch. And there's this wonderful, heartwarming picture of him getting a hug from two of the X-Files fans. It's all over Twitter. It's the most wonderful, silly, beautiful picture. He has this smile on his face. It's like, I know he feels loved by the fans. And I think it's very important, and I say this as a fan, but also as a writer, that, heaven forbid I write something that will become popular, and then people will claim ownership of this thing that I have created and tell me that I don't know what I'm doing and that I have ruined. If I write something and then I change it, or I write a plot line that people don't like, they will tell me to go kill myself and that I don't know what I'm doing and that I've ruined their characters. As a writer, I find it scary that you can get so much hate and negativity from the same people who love your work or who claim they love your work. So coming at this both as a fan and as a writer, I am very happy that we fans got to show Chris Carter and the other writers and producers how much the show has meant to us and what a great job they did with it. So I don't know what else there is to say. I wish I had more time to talk to all these people. I wish I had more time to talk to Chris. I wish I had more time to talk to Chris Owens and had said something more, intelligent to him, aside from just asking him, if he had more fun playing Great Mutado or the Young Cigarette Smoking Man. I wish I had taken a picture with Nick Lee eating the candy that I got him. I wish I had done so many things I didn't have time to do or was too overwhelmed to think of doing. But I guess we'll circle back to the unbelievable moment of me getting photobombed by Darren Morgan. Now, like I said, I had talked to Glenn Morgan also, and he didn't even take my autograph ticket. He didn't take our tickets. He just wanted to, he signed the pictures, and he just wanted to chat with us. And so we had a nice conversation about the X-Files and about fan feedback. And I then then I went to get my picture taken with Darren Morgan. So I asked Corina, do you want to be in a picture with us? Because she invited me to be in a picture with Sheila Larkin. And so we took a picture with Darren Morgan, and we wanted to do something silly. And I said, let's do Charlie's Angels. And Darren is like, how do you do Charlie's Angels? And I said, well, you do the finger guns. And I had a feeling that he didn't want to do the finger guns. And I said, well, you can do the karate thing. And so in the picture, he's standing in the center and he's doing the karate thing, the karate hands, and Karina and I are doing the finger guns, and that's the picture. And it's my favorite picture from that photo op, from all of the photo ops. And as I'm coming out of the photo, this whole setup, people of XCast, Sarah and the other two, whose names I don't remember, I'm sorry. They said, hey, I love your outfit. Can we take a picture of you for XCast? And I was like, XCast wants a picture of me? Yeah. And so I'm posing and doing this whole alien pose, whatever that is. And they start laughing, and and there's some commotion behind me, and I feel someone's presence, and I look around, and it's Darren Morgan, and he's photobombing me. And I just burst out laughing, and I cannot believe that this is happening, and this is the moment that they have captured on on camera. This whole and on one of the pictures, as I'm turning to him, to look at him, I look angry with Darren Morgan, but I am not angry. I'm just in complete awe that this is happening. He's just being so silly, he's sneaking up behind me, just peeking out from my shoulder and photobombing me. And later that day, I went to get his autograph, and I had him sign the picture of when we're doing the Charlie's Angels, and I had him sign it to me and my brother because he is our favorite X-Files writer, along with David Duchovny, of course. And so that was the story behind that photo bomb, which is I don't know, it's the first thing that pops into my head when I think about PhileFest, and it's one of the most surreal moments of my life. And I can't end this episode without talking about XCast, namely Sarah. I've been following her for a long time on Instagram because she's an author, and she does this X-Files podcast. So I've been following her for a long time, and then out of the blue, she DMs me, and she says, "Hi, Dinara, I just found your podcast, and I really like it. It's really cool." And I'm like, holy crap. Sarah Blair, author and co-creator of XCast, thinks my podcast is cool. What is happening? And so we kept in touch, and during PhileFest, as I was eating lunch with Karina, who do I see? It's Sarah just walking by, and I'm like, Sarah, And then she looks at me and we hug, and I say, I'm completely starstruck right now. And so we took a picture, and it's also on social media. And she is just the sweetest, such a kind, like beautiful person. And I'm very glad I have met her in real life. And hearing that she thought that my podcast is good, even though I am recording this in my bedroom using the cheapest microphone camera software. Well, the software was free. And having to deal with all this technical nonsense, just being a complete amateur, and having someone who does this more or less professionally tell me that it's good. It's very humbling, and it's very very heartwarming. So but it also, it's a little scary, because now it means that I have to do a better job. Now, like, I have no choice but to make this podcast better than what it is. I can't think of anything else to talk about right now. I think I've covered most of the amazing interactions I've had. I bought amazing art, fan art. Like I said, I was on a budget, so I couldn't afford all the things I wanted to get. But I was sure to get something from most of the vendors, and I got to talk to Joe Harris for a bit. He is a writer and artist who did the once official seasons 10 and 11 X-Files comics. I wanted to get one of the comic books, but like I said, I was on a budget, so I bought a sticker. And I think I'm going to post pictures of all the souvenirs and memorabilia I have from PhileFest on Twitter and on Instagram. So if you want to see that, follow me on those platforms. You can find me on Twitter at Dinara Tengri, which is my name, and on Instagram at Fandom X Archive Podcast. That's the name of my podcast. So make sure to follow me there if you want more updates and more cheesy, sappy PhileFest memories on your timeline. A big thank you to my friend Katrin for writing the theme song for this podcast. I love this theme song so much. I think it contributes so much to the quality of this podcast. Like it elevates it. A big thank you to my friend Karina, who made this amazing weekend unforgettable. Just hanging out with her and talking with her about life, the universe, and everything. It's been so rewarding and heartwarming. A big thank you to all the fans and friends that I have met. I can't name everyone because I'm already running so late, but Scully Loves Squeakweg. Funny story, we have been following each other on Twitter for a very long time, but we didn't know what we looked like. I didn't know what she looked like. And so we just kept missing each other. We knew we were going to be at the same event, and we just kept missing each other. And finally, I post a selfie of myself. Standing in line for the comedy show. I posted on Twitter, and she DMs me. She says, "I see you." And that's how we finally met. And a big thank you to Lauren and Carly for this amazing documentary and for making me feel welcome. Because when I first arrived at PhileFest, they were the only two people I knew. So they were very, very generous and sweet also. And thank you for featuring me in your documentary. Even though I don't know what to think about my own appearance there. But, here I am recording myself, my own voice and my own face on camera. So I guess I better get used to this sort of thing. A huge thank you to Chris Carter and Frank Spotnitz and the Morgan brothers and James Wong, whose autograph I did not get, and other X-Files writers whose autographs I also didn't get. I'm sorry. A huge thank you to all the actors that I've talked to that have been so amazing. I wish I'd gotten Pat Skipper's autograph. He plays Bill Scully. But again, there was just so much to do, not enough time, not enough money, completely chaotic. A big thank you to the organizers of PhileFest, off-brand events. You did an amazing job. This has been, like I said, I can only imagine how stressful and challenging it must have been. But you have made this work, and not only did you make this work, but you turned this fan event into an unforgettable experience. And I feel closer to this fandom. I feel closer to this show. There was a time when I felt very disconnected from the fandom, mostly because of the negativity online. And I felt like I didn't belong in the fandom anymore because it felt like my views about the show were not as popular, and I didn't feel safe to express my opinion on some of the things about the show. But coming to PhileFest and talking to all the fans and seeing them in real life made me realize that we're a great fandom. We're a pretty great fandom. And when all is said and done, we're all here to love and celebrate this show, which was first aired 30 years ago and is still going strong. So thank you to all the friends, old and new, that I saw at PhileFest. Thank you to everyone who has encouraged me to go, even though I was so afraid. And I guess it would be too much to thank myself for going, but I'm just gonna pat myself on the back and say, good job. It's good that you went. So I'll talk to you next time. I don't know what the next episode is going to be about because it's spooky season, October, and I want that episode to be Halloween related. I don't know yet what it's going to be about. Maybe if you can give me some suggestions, like spooky fanfic read, or I don't know, something. I just wanted to make it. I want each episode of this podcast to be its own thing, kind of like each episode of the X-Files was its own movie. Strong enough to stand on its own, strong enough to mean something on its own. And that sounds very, very ambitious, but I really want each episode to be its own unique thing. And so I'm going to have to think very hard about what the next one is going to be about. But all in good time. Thank you all so much for staying, for listening, and for watching. It's very, very strange watching myself like this, but I won't be doing this every time. I won't. So next episode is going to be back to normal, just audio. Again, thank you so much, and have a good rest of your day, night, week, and I hope you're all good. Okay, well, I'm gonna go. Oh, and follow Katrin on Instagram. I'm gonna post her socials in the description of this episode because she's an amazing musician and you should really give her a follow. So, bye.